Have you ever heard words that felt harmless, even caring, but left you questioning your worth or sanity? Sometimes it's not the volume of the voice that wounds, it's the subtle manipulation hidden behind gentle tones. Psychologist Carl Jung believed that words have immense power, shaping not just our thoughts but our very identity. And when those words come from someone we trust, especially a man we may love, they can pierce deeper than we realize. In this video, we're diving into 5 powerful phrases that may seem ordinary, but are actually red flag phrases that, if a man says them to you, should make you stop and think hard about who you're dealing with. Through the lens of Carl Jung's teachings on the shadow self, projection, and emotional awareness, we'll uncover why certain statements reveal much more about his inner world and why they're warning signs you should never ignore. Chapter 1. You're overreacting. There's a subtle kind of emotional manipulation that often hides behind calm words and a composed voice. It doesn't always come with shouting or aggression, it can come gently, even quietly, but it cuts just as deep. One of the most dangerous phrases a man can say to you is "you're overreacting." At first glance, it might seem harmless, even reasonable. After all, we all have moments when we become emotional. But Carl Jung believed that the core of our psychological development is based on integration, bringing the unconscious into consciousness and accepting the full range of our emotions as valid signals of the soul. When someone repeatedly tells you that your feelings are an overreaction, they're not just dismissing the moment. They're trying to rewrite your inner reality. This phrase, "you're overreacting," is an attempt to invalidate your emotional experience. It's a way to flip the script. So instead of addressing the issue that caused the emotion, the focus shifts to your emotional response. The moment you hear those words, something dangerous starts to happen. Your trust in your own emotional compass begins to erode. Slowly, you begin to question yourself. Was I too emotional? Am I making this bigger than it is? Is something wrong with me for feeling this way? And that's exactly the point. A man who says this regularly isn't just avoiding accountability, he's planting seeds of doubt within you. Carl Jung warned us that the greatest harm often comes not from what is done, but from what is left unspoken, unseen, and unacknowledged in the unconscious. When a man consistently gaslights your emotions, he is attempting to push your truth into the shadows, into the unconscious, where it festers and distorts your sense of self. The damage from this behavior is often long-lasting. Over time, you may begin to suppress your feelings before they even reach the surface, afraid they will be dismissed or ridiculed. You may become emotionally numb or disconnected, afraid to speak your truth. And in relationships, truth is the foundation. The moment you stop trusting your own voice, the relationship is no longer built on mutual respect, it's built on control. Walking away isn't just a choice, it's an act of reclaiming your inner authority. Carl Jung said that we don't become light and by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Recognizing this phrase for what it truly is, a tactic of emotional invalidation, is your first step into the light. Chapter 2. You're too sensitive. It often begins subtly, maybe during a conversation that didn't go as planned, or when you expressed hurt over something said or done. And then it slips out, "you're too sensitive." It might come with a shrug, or maybe a condescending smile. But underneath that short sentence lies a complex form of emotional dismissal that, if left unchecked, can unravel your confidence and crush your sense of emotional truth. Carl Jung believed that sensitivity was not a weakness, but rather a gateway to deeper consciousness. According to Jungian psychology, those who feel deeply are often attuned to the undercurrents of the psyche. They sense subtle shifts in mood, meaning, and energy. But in a world that often rewards stoicism, sensitivity is misunderstood. So when a man says, "you're too sensitive," he's not just criticizing your reaction, he's attacking the very framework of your emotional intelligence. The phrase sounds like a critique, but it's actually a defense or refusal to deal with the discomfort of someone else's vulnerability. Instead of facing how his words or actions might have hurt you, he deflects, making your sensitivity the problem. This form of projection Jung would say, is a shadow defense. The man cannot face the impact of his own unconscious behavior, so he transfers the discomfort onto you. He labels your pain as an overreaction, your sadness as fragility, and your disappointment as irrational. The real danger is that this message, when repeated, becomes internalized. You start to feel ashamed of your feelings. You apologize for crying. You hesitate before speaking your truth. Eventually, you might start acting hard on yourself, staying quiet, numbing your own sensitivity just to preserve peace. But peace at the expense of authenticity is not peace, it's self-abandonment. Jung taught that healing begins when we embrace our whole selves, especially the parts that society urges us to suppress. Your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a mirror of your soul. It reflects your values, your empathy, your desire for connection. The right person will recognize this as strength, not weakness. So when a man says you're too sensitive, it's time to pause. Is he showing you who he is, someone unwilling to reflect, to grow, to meet you where you are emotionally? Then, as painful as it might be, walk away. Protecting your emotional truth is not selfish, it's sacred. Chapter 3. You're lucky I'm with you. There are words that seem harmless on the surface, phrases that slip into a relationship like whispers in the dark. You're lucky I'm with you may appear, at first glance, like a compliment veiled in jest. But underneath that mask lies a much darker undertone, a quiet erosion of your self-worth. Carl Jung would urge us to look beyond the words, into the psyche of the speaker. In Jungian terms, this is a statement rooted in power and balance. It's not affection speaking, it's the ego trying to assert superiority, trying to plant a seed of self-doubt within you. It's a subtle reminder that you are not enough on your own, that your value is conditional, that your partner is doing you a favor by being with you. This statement often shows up when you're beginning to reclaim your voice and you set boundaries, express dissatisfaction, or ask for more from the relationship. It is then that this phrase emerges like a foghorn, cutting through the clarity of your self-awareness. It's a psychological tactic that repositions power, implying that you're replaceable, and that your partner is the prize you should never question. Over time, this phrase can work like erosion on your self-esteem. You begin to second and guess yourself. You might find yourself trying harder to deserve the relationship, changing how you speak, how you dress, how you dream. You shrink to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. And perhaps worst of all, you may start to feel that walking away would mean losing something irreplaceable, when in fact, staying means losing yourself. Jung believed that each person carries within them the potential for individuation, the process of becoming whole, true to one's essence. But when someone consistently implies you're lucky just to be in their presence, they are trying to arrest that process. They are trying to prevent you from seeing your wholeness, because your self-realization might threaten the control they hold. A loving relationship doesn't require gratitude for basic decency. It doesn't ask you to bow your head in thankfulness for being chosen. It sees your value, it meets you as an equal, and it cherishes your growth, not fears it. So, when a man tells you, "You're lucky I'm with you," does he truly cherish you, or is he afraid of you realizing you never needed him to complete you? Jung would say walk away, not in anger, but in the quiet dignity of someone who finally remembers their worth. Chapter 4. You're overreacting. Few phrases are as quietly destructive as this one. You're overreacting. It's dismissive, cold, and carries a subtle violence. On the surface, it may seem like an attempt to calm things down, but beneath the surface, it is an erasure of your feelings, your reality, your voice. According to Carl Jung, repression is one of the most dangerous forces in the psyche. When a man tells you you're overreacting, he's not just invalidating your emotions, he's attempting to control the narrative. He's trying to bury your emotional truth because it disrupts his comfort, his control. This isn't about helping you find clarity or peace. It's about gaslighting you into believing that what you feel is irrational or exaggerated. that your perception is flawed, that you are the problem. But feelings don't lie. They may be messy, raw, even inconvenient, but they are true. They are indicators of the soul's experience. Jung emphasized the need to enter the shadow, the dark, unseen parts of ourselves that we try to reject. When someone tells you that you're overreacting, they're essentially saying your shadow isn't welcome here. Your pain is too much. Your truth is too loud. And in doing so, they push you toward fragmentation, forcing you to split off parts of yourself in order to remain accepted. This statement doesn't appear in isolation. It comes when you're hurt, when you're trying to articulate a wound, or speak up about something that matters to you. And instead of being met with empathy, you are met with silence or worse, scorn. The worst part, over time, you begin to internalize it. You start editing your emotions, tiptoeing around your feelings. Afraid of being too much, you shrink not because you want to, but because you believe you have to. Jung taught that the path to wholeness requires honoring all aspects of the psyche, not just the convenient ones. Your sadness, your anger, your discomfort, these are not liabilities. They are invitations to go deeper, to heal, to grow. Any relationship that discourages you from expressing those truths is not a sanctuary, it's a cage. And here's the subtle twist: men who regularly say you're overreacting oft and do so not because you are wrong, but because you are right. Your emotional response threatens to expose something in them, a flaw, a fear, a behavior they don't want to confront. So they deflect, they diminish, they silence, not because you are unstable, but because your clarity shines too brightly on their shadows. Walking away isn't always a grand declaration. Sometimes it's a quiet, courageous act of self-preservation. When a man constantly tells you your feelings are too much, what he's really saying is, I'm not willing to meet you where you are. And that is all the truth you need. As you might say, wholeness comes not from being understood by others, but from understanding yourself. And no one who truly values you will ever ask you to abandon your emotional truth just to maintain peace. Chapter 5. I don't believe in therapy. At first glance, this statement might seem like a personal opinion. After all, not everyone embraces the same path toward healing. But when a man dismisses therapy entirely, especially with pride or mockery, it often reveals much more than just skepticism. It exposes a refusal to explore his own inner world, a denial of introspection, and a resistance to growth. Carl Jung saw therapy not just as a tool for mental health, but as a sacred space where the psyche could confront its shadows. He believed that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. When a man rejects therapy outright, especially while navigating complex relationships, it often means he fears what might surface in that silence. It means he is avoiding a confrontation with the very things that shape his behavior: trauma, ego wounds, fears, and unmet needs. A man who refuses to look inward often relies on projection. He will see his flaws in others, blame the world for his pain, and resist taking responsibility for patterns he has repeated in every relationship. He will armor himself with logic, distraction, or dominance, but beneath it all, he remains untouched by self-awareness. When a man says, I don't believe in therapy, what he may actually mean is, I am not ready to be honest with myself. This is not about whether he has gone to therapy or not. It's about his attitude toward healing. Does he value growth? Is he willing to take responsibility? Can he sit in discomfort and reflect on how his behavior impacts others? These are the true signs of maturity. Jung taught that wholeness is achieved through integrating the conscious and unconscious self. That process requires humility. It requires the courage to admit, I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I want to become better, not just for me, but for those I love. When a man ridicules therapy or scoffs at healing, he is often saying that he prefers the safety of his wounds over the discomfort of growth. This becomes dangerous in relationships because it creates a dynamic where you are expected to do the emotional labor for both of you. You're the one who reflects, who communicates, who apologizes, who seeks peace while he remains stagnant, defended and emotionally unavailable. Over time, this imbalance erodes a connection. It becomes exhausting to love someone who refuses to meet you in the realm of emotional honesty. Even worse, a man who mocks therapy often mocks your attempts to grow. He might roll his eyes when you mention books or quotes that moved you. He might say things like, "Why are you always trying to fix things?" Or "You think too much." And little by little, your light begins to dim. Your curiosity, your emotional intelligence, your deep desire to evolve become things you hide rather than celebrate. Jung would say that such a man is stuck in the persona, the mask he wears for the world. But beneath that mask lies a scared inner child who never learned how to grieve, how to reflect, or how to love without control. And unless he is willing to do the work, he will remain there repeating the same stories in different settings. So when a man says, "I don't believe in therapy," hear it as more than a comment. Hear it as a signal of emotional rigidity, of inner walls too thick to let love in, of a future where change will always be your burden alone. Walk away not because he is broken, but because he has chosen to stay broken. Because you deserve someone who doesn't fear the mirror of the soul but stands in front of it, with you, ready to grow. Conclusion. Walk away with your power intact. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious doesn't lie, it peeks through patterns, language, and behaviors. And sometimes, the very words a person uses can expose the deepest cracks in their character. So when a man repeatedly says things like "You're too sensitive," or "No one else would want you," what he's really doing is projecting his own insecurity, attempting to control your reality, and gradually dismantling your self-worth. These words are not about love, they are about power. And love, or real love, it doesn't need power. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't gaslight. It doesn't silence your voice in order to protect its own ego. It listens. It expands. It makes room. Carl Jung believed that true individuation, the process of becoming your full, authentic self, requires walking away from anything that keeps you small. And sometimes that means walking away from someone who uses their words not to uplift, but to diminish. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. The moment you start believing those lies, you shrink into a version of yourself that only serves someone else's comfort, not your truth. So if you hear these 5 phrases, don't wait for things to change. Walk away, not with bitterness, but with clarity, not with rage, but with resolve. You're not leaving him, you're choosing yourself. And that might just be the most powerful decision of your life. If this message spoke to your heart, if you've ever heard these words and felt something inside you tighten, then know you are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. Please don't forget to like this video, it helped you. Subscribe for more content rooted in psychology and healing. And share it with someone who might need this message today.